For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss why government resists naming xenophobia. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
Although your article refers to xenophobia in the title, it seems to cover a much wider ambit.
Yes, this thing of not wanting to call something by its name is a problem that we have in a lot of situations in society. Edward Said, in his book Orientalism, referred to the notion of othering, that there are us who don't need to be explained, but then there are the others who have exotic qualities or dangerous qualities or fearsome qualities. And I think in the word xenophobia has got problems. I think it's not an adequate word because phobia implies an uncontrolled psychological urge. Now, what is really happening in a lot of these situations is that there are some people who stand to gain from people being driven out, whether traders or other people. And there are ordinary poor people who come along after someone has firebombed a shop or broken down, opened a shop, and they're ordinary poor people who can't make ends meet. They go and steal. And when they go and steal, they're not doing it because they hate the foreigners. In some ways, they don't want them to go out because if they want to steal in the future, it's going to be difficult if there are no shops there. But there are different people. You see, there are some people like local South African traders who resent the foreign traders because the foreign traders are selling goods cheaper than them. Secondly, they're working very long hours. Now, those people plan attacks. Now, it's been in the press that they say these people must go out and this, that, and the other. And they claim sometimes that they've heard that some young boy has been attacked. But they make as if they're going spontaneously to the dangerous spot. But they've got firebombs already. They've got Molotov cocktails. So these are planned attacks by people who've got resources. Because if you move from one place to 3 or 4 kilometers away, you've got to have transport. And if you attack the place, you've got to have Molotov cocktails or some other incendiary device. Then the people who come and take the goods, many of these people have been interviewed and they say they don't really want the foreigners to go and they know it was wrong to steal, but they're poor and all of that. So there's a problem besides foreigners, the poverty of the people of the area. And when I was dealing with this, I was dealing with a wider problem, which the ANC itself knows very well, what you are called. That Mandela was on the list of terrorists in the United States until about 2008. And the ANC and a lot of others contested this naming. Amnesty International would not call those of us who were in prison, who were involved in advocating on struggle, we were not recognized as prisoners of conscience by them. So that naming what you call something, the fact that they don't want to call it xenophobia and just call it crime, is a problem in that you can't tackle something if you don't call it what it is.
And you also say that the ANC, because of its own history, is very conscious of the importance of naming.
Yeah, this is what I have just been referring to, that the ANC has been out in the cold. It battled to see British prime ministers, American leaders, things like this, because they classified the anti-apartheid struggle, the ANC in particular, as a terrorist movement. And the difference between being a freedom fighter and a terrorist, or even a neutral term like insurgent. Terrorist means that you just go and throw something into crowds and you don't care what happens. But I think what the ANC knows very well is caring about the poor, those who suffer. And what I find problematic about all of this is that we fought for democracy, and that is loosely interpreted as majority rule. But the law and the responsibility of any democrat is not just to the majority. It is to all these people on the margins. There's nothing worse than being a person who is neither here nor there, who is in South Africa but hasn't got papers and fears being deported. And those papers are being delayed by Home Affairs. Or someone who's got papers but still has to pay a bribe. In today's paper, there is a Lawyers for Human Rights report that is being issued, which shows that there is extensive bribery around Home Affairs. I just want to finish by saying that the church has been very good about this. And I'm not a believer, but I want to quote something from a book called Jesus Was a Migrant. Now, Paul Verlaine recently said, Jesus was himself a refugee in Africa. And you have Matthew quoted in this book. And Jesus said, foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Now, those people who are Christians ought to be ashamed of treating people this way if they are followers of Jesus.
Thank you, Professor. That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about why government resists naming xenophobia.